Hey y'all, it's Jay. I'm back again with Nathaniel.
Hey, I'm back. I made the cut, so I got back
you made
again.
the cut.
She can tolerate me a little longer.
Anything mortgage-wise and real estate related, I got time. So the next question that I have for you is, what is the process of getting a loan once you're approved or even pre-approved? What does that look like?
So great question. So the first thing is there are a little bit of differences between a pre-qualification and a pre-approval. So what you want to know is that if you're doing a verbal over the phone with a mortgage professional, keep in mind that verbal typically will be a pre-qualification.
Okay.
We're working specifically off of arbitrary information that we have predicated on a phone conversation. So generally when you slide into a pre-approval, normally we'll review your documentation, like your income documentation, your asset documentations, if you're bringing, down payment, funds for closing, things of that nature. And, maybe if you've gone through a divorce, we'll want to see a divorce decree. So it's a little bit more of an intrusive process, but that really takes you from a pre-qualification to a pre-approval. The last one is a formal approval, and a formal approval is when an underwriter who has the authority, it's granted the authority by the person that writes the check to basically clear your loan for closing. That's a formal approval, and that's typically known as a commitment to lend. Those generally don't happen, Jay, until you get a little further along in the transaction. You may or may not need an appraisal, but once an underwriter has seen the documentation, they've blessed it, then you have a formal approval. What's the process? So the process would be, you always want to make sure, in my recommendation, when you're going through the pre-qualification or pre-approval process, please, very important, give yourself some time, meaning put yourself in a place where you have the ability to have a really good detailed conversation with the mortgage professional. Grab a notepad and a pen. And there's a lot involved here. There's a lot of numbers that happen a lot. So going through the numbers, we're going to identify things like we will pull your credit. We have to pull your credit. I want to mention something important about credit in this process. Consumers will tell me all the time, my credit score is a 760, my credit score is a 720. But then we in the mortgage world, when we pull the credit report, it sometimes can be a lot less. The reason is there's a difference between a consumer report and a mortgage report. A consumer report are reports that are car loans, credit card loans, boat loans, things of that nature. When you get into the mortgage world, because you're taking a very, very large loan, the algorithms that are designed to create the credit score are different. So bear in mind that when you're going through the pre-qualification process, we will pull your credit. It will be different than a consumer report. The next step in the process is make sure that you understand that we are going to need your income. So gathering up 2 years worth of income documentation. So having your paycheck stubs, your W-2s, if you're self-employed, bear in mind, we need 2 full and complete tax filing years. Once we go under the pre-qualification process, we will then provide Jay a pre-qualification, and if we've reviewed your documentation, a pre-approval. You'll then shop for a home. Jay will do a wonderful job getting you into a home. Once you go under contract, now the game really begins. You're going to have an inspection. That inspection is different than an appraisal. So generally what we do is Jay will administer and manage the inspection piece. And if everything goes well with the inspection, then you, the client, and Jay will let us know time to order the appraisal. The appraisal is different from the inspection. The lender does not look at the inspection. We look at the appraisal. The appraisal will determine the value of the home, and we really sign off on a deal based on that collateral review. So got to bear in mind there are generally 2 expenses there. When you go under contract, you need to start shopping for insurance. That's really important. Don't wait to the very end to do that. Additionally, be prepared that now that you're going through the approval process, remember, now an underwriter has seen your file. Once they've seen your file and they issue that formal approval or commitment to lend, there will be additional things that you may need. There are things that we might see in a bank statement. There are things that we may discover in your profile that may require additional information. Most mortgage professionals do their best to capture that up front, but a lot of that we unearth a lot of that information after you've gone through an actual contract. So it's a little bit of a lengthy process, but then once you get to the very end, we get your conditions. So an underwriter will underwrite your loan. They'll provide you a loan commitment. At that point, you'll get a list of additional items you'll have to provide. Hopefully not much, but at a minimum, it's generally at least an inspection and sometimes even an appraisal. Once that underwriter has received your conditions from that approval, they will review them, they will clear them, and then you'll be on your way to closing.
Great. So you gave us a lot of information. How long would you say the process takes?
Depending on market trends, generally it could be 30 days or less. depending on the proficiency of you, the client. So the sooner you can provide us the information we need, the faster the process will go. Remember, we typically don't order the appraisal until we've done the inspection. So once you go under contract, you'll want to make sure that you get that inspection done quickly. If there are any negotiations for improvements and repairs, that's being done swiftly and quickly. The other thing is be careful in the transaction. We see this a lot with clients. If you are getting gift funds or if you're moving money, so if you're moving money from spouse to spouse, or you're moving from account to account, or you're liquidating assets, especially if you're getting gifts, that can be a pretty significant paper trail. We're busy. We have busy lives, Jay, right?
Yep.
So obviously, the sooner you can be more proficient up front in the pre-qualification process, the smoother the middle will be. But generally, with the excessive documentation that may need to be provided, 30 days or less.
Great. Be proactive, y'all, not reactive.
That's
Get
right.
the information over to Nathaniel as soon as possible.
And we appreciate that.
All right. Well, thank you, Nathaniel, again. And we'll move on to our next question. Be back in a minute. Bye,
We'll see you
y'all.
soon. Bye.